let's get started. All right. Oh, there she is. All right, welcome to the October work session. Mrs. Ravenfeld and Mr. Foray are unable to attend this evening, and Mrs. Armstrong is online. All right, first thing up is comments from the student representative. Hello, sir.
Well, my first comment is I didn't know any of those songs you were singing. Yeah, but on a more important note, the student council, we had our first meeting of the year on September 25th. We talked a lot about homecoming because that's at the end of this week, Friday and Saturday. The seniors, in case anyone wants to know the themes for homecoming, the seniors were year 3000, so futuristic stuff. The juniors are ancient Greece, sophomores, prehistoric times, and the freshmen are like the decades, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. So it's a wide variety of time periods that we have represented. In addition, for homecoming, we have squared away all of our nominations for the Wall of Fame, and I got to reach out and contact these people, telling them that they were nominated, and so that was cool. And we sent them letters and got everything worked out. So I think all three that we nominated will be attending the game. So pretty good attendance this year. For the Instagram, we are continuing to push to get more people to follow us so that we can have our announcements reach more people. We have 94 followers now. Dr. Cap followed us this morning, so it was 93, that's what I have written, but we got one more. Just to keep everyone in the loop, and we will continue putting more things out there as they come up, and as we have students in to recognize them, we will put pictures up just to let people see those. So yeah, if there are any questions, that's all I have.
So there's a parade Friday night, right, at what time?
Fabian's at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock?
Yes, and then
6:45 is the
game
Wall of Fame, and 7 o'clock is the game.
is the game, yes. And then the dance and all of that's the next day.
All right. Thank you. CCIU?
The CCIU meets this Wednesday. I will not be at the board meeting since I will be at the Pennsylvania School Boards Association conference. But I wanted to give you a report because this Wednesday also the CCIU is celebrating 50 years of providing career and technical education in Chester County. This event will be at the Technical College High School, Cat Pickering, which is what we would refer to it as back in the day. And it's really going to be neat. They've invited all the alumni back, all the old staff, all the current staff, all the board members from all the member districts, as well as several people from outside of our county who also have a stake because they use the CCIU. So the CCIU right now, we are servicing 86,000 children. They have a lot to celebrate. They are a great organization, and we're all grateful to have them and the hardworking staff. So I'm really sad that I will not be there to celebrate with them because I love to share in those milestones with them. But it will be a wonderful event, and I'll bring back at the next meeting both the report from the full board meeting as well as a little report from the event and how it went. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. All right, program, 5-year projections.
We have
our annual presentation tonight of the 5-year projections. These are the ones that we did internally. Of course, we're all anxiously awaiting, which I understand will be about another 4 weeks before the professional company we hired is going to give us their opinion. But for tonight, we want to review with you what we've come up with. There we go. So a little bit of background on this. You've all heard Mr. Linderman do presentations in the past, and he talked about using birth rates for doing the kindergarten enrollments projection.
Chuck,
In the past.
share your mic.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Steve.
In the past, they've actually used numbers for all of Chester County, birth rates for all of Chester County. And as long as you consistently do that, it's okay, because you're still trying to estimate how many students will show up when they hit 5 years old based on how many were born. And but tonight we've taken a little bit different approach, and we've used birth rates just for the Great Valley School District. So if you look at this first slide, we have Charlestown Township, East Whiteland, Malvern, Willistown, and then total. So this number represents in 2013, there were 42 babies born in Charleston Township. So we had a total in these years in 2013, there were 278. In 2014, 290. 2015, 266. 2016, 314. And 2017, 292. Now, you can't just use those numbers. You have to actually look at what months were those students born. So we've done that. And these numbers represent in 2019-20, the school year that we're in right now, there were 301 students or babies that would be eligible according to those birth rates. And you get that by using the babies that were born in September through December of 2013, and then add to that the kiddos that were born January through August of 2014. So for the year that our October 3rd enrollment, there were 301 kids born that would have been eligible to come had they all still lived in our school district. Now, when we go through this, I want you to remember that number right there, 301, and we're going to come back to that. So now we have to make assumptions, and these are my assumptions. So in 2020-21, I'm going to make an assumption that 100% of the kids that are eligible to come will come to the Great Valley School District. In 2021-22, 100%, 22-23, 100%. Then you'll see here in a minute, we don't have the numbers, the birth rates haven't been announced yet, so we can't use the same analysis for 23-24 or 24-25. So we used an average of the 2020 through the 2023. We just added the three together and used an average. And again, when I told you to remember that number, why do we use 100%? You're going to see that in a second here. The other assumptions that we made were, number one, our first grade, we would use an average of the retention rates for 2nd through 5th grades due to the change in full-day kindergarten. So in the past, we might have said that 120%, 130% of the kids that were in kindergarten would show up in 1st grade, because we knew that a lot of parents weren't sending their kids because we didn't have full-day kindergarten. So we can't use that old retention rate any longer, because this will be the first year that we had full-day kindergarten. So we're not going to have 120% increase next year. It'll be something less than that. And you'll see that again here in the next slide. It'll make it a little bit more sense. Finally, the last assumption was that we would use an average of 3 years of our retention rates in grades 2 through 12. Now, what is a retention rate? A retention rate is simply, if you have 100 students in 1st grade and 100% show up in 2nd grade, that's 100% retention. If you have 100 in 1st grade and 90 show up in 2nd grade, you have a 90% retention. And on the other way, if you have 100 students in 1st grade and the next year you have 110 in 2nd grade, you have 110%. So these numbers are really good. in terms of, we aren't losing students every year. And that's, again, due to the fact that we've had an increase in our kindergarten enrollment, an increase in our birth rates. But then, because more kids are moving in than moving out every year, we're getting more than 100%. So the kids that were in first grade, you can assume that 107% are going to show up in second grade. So there's going to be more in second grade than there was in first grade.
So that, so you're saying, I mean, I understand that year to year, but are you saying that from right now, from first grade through 12th grade, the class starts at 300 students and ends up at over 400 by the time you graduate?
Yeah, I'll show you that in a second, but this isn't new to this year. Our retention rates, maybe they haven't been put up on a board like this before, but our retention rates have been more than 100% for several years now, and that's because more people are moving in than moving out. That combined with the birth rates going up a little bit, are making it so that.
Yeah, I understand that, but we're not compounding each grade's not growing 6%
Are
every
they, are
year.
these cumulative or absolute? So
Right,
you
Yeah,
have
let-
100
let's go to
kids.
here.
yeah, maybe easier there.
This is easier. So what we're saying is, when you have 304 kids in kindergarten, you can expect 323 in first grade.
Yeah, and then 348 and 360.
And then, yes, it's going up because there's more than 100% in our retention rate. If we were losing population every year, this number would go down, and it would be 304. Let's say we had a 90% retention rate. Well, there would be fewer kids in first grade the next year than there were in kindergarten in this year. Now, I want to point out that I should have marked this better, but this is the third day enrollment. This is the actual number of students that showed up this year. And I told you, wanted you to remember that number of the birth rates. I think it was 301. So we had 301, we had 304 show up, and that's why I said, let's just use 100% of the birth rates to make our assumption for how many kids are we going to have in kindergarten in these ensuing years. So this is a detail report that shows the entire district. In 1920, these are the number of kids, and I have a total here in a second. These are the number of students in each grade level, and you can see each year it increasing up, and we're doing 5 years. So we have 1 year of actual and then 5 years of projections. And here's how it breaks down in totals. In 1920, our third day enrollment was 4,416 students. That was a 3.39% increase from the year before. And we have it broke down by elementary school, 2,006, middle school, 1,073, high school, 1,337, for a total of 4,416 students. You can see how that carries through each year. We're assuming a 3.07% increase next year, drops down to 2%, then 2.36, 2.39, and 2.35. And so we're projecting that in the next 5 years, we'll go from 4,416 students to just under 5,000 students. Now, graphically, this is elementary, so you can see where we are right now at 2006, climbing up to 2,097, and then we're projecting that it'll start to decline slightly after that, based on the birth rates that we have right now.
Can I ask a quick question?
Certainly.
Are these future-looking numbers reflective of the development that we know is going on in the community today?
Well, they're inherently in there because there's been development going on for years. But these aren't the numbers that the professionals are doing for us, where they're interviewing all of the developers and all that. So if they would interview everybody and decide that the development's going to increase faster than it's been increasing before, their projections will go up higher than these ones. If they decide, well, it's going to stay about the same, then in theory, these numbers will be about right. And if they decide the future development's going to be a little slower, then the numbers would get.
They're inherently in the last slide, when he's showing the 3% and 2%, that's where that growth is, right?
Middle school, we don't take a dip. We start at 1,073 and it goes up just a little bit every year. And we're projecting 1,290 students 5 years from now. And high school also continues to climb. 1,337 goes up to 1,625 students. So the total enrollment, again, it's just graphically goes from 4,416 up to 4,981. And then finally, we're going to take a
I
quick
mean, it
look
sounds
at-
like a big number, but it's 10%, which is still a lot of people, right? I mean, don't get that wrong, 10 or 11%, right? So,
Yep, and it makes a big difference when we're doing this feasibility study and the planning.
right. And elementary makes it more difficult because it really matters of where those kids are throughout the district, right? Because you could all of a sudden have one school that's, like, we had to adjust Markley because we were so overcrowded. So it really matters where they sprout up.
Yep. Our non-public school enrollment has declined a little bit. It's declined 3 years in a row. A little bit less, this only down 2 students, but I think that's better than going up. And finally, our charter school enrollment, if you look at the 5 years there, you could argue that it's somewhat stable, but 76 down to 63 this year.
I have a question, and you may not know this, but maybe you can find out for us. I mean, one of the things we did about kindergarten was, what was it, 18 kids? Last year that went to charter school, and that was some of our justification for adding full-day kindergarten. Do we know what happened to those 18 kids, and how many kindergarten charter school students do we have this year?
Yeah, like it went down 13, right? If are those 13 all kindergartners?
Yeah, it could be other grades.
Yeah, it'd be good to know.
What I don't have a precise answer to that question, but on a related question, the other theory that was kicked around during that discussion was that if we offered full-day kindergarten, that there might be a second grader, a sibling that comes back, and if we didn't offer it, maybe they would wait till 3rd grade. So we actually looked by last name and tried to identify kindergarten enrollees this year that had siblings that were in private school last year, and we couldn't find any.
One thing we will do is get that number for you, exactly from last year to this year.
Any questions? Any slide you want me to go back to?
No, but I just want to say that's really great information. I appreciate that, especially going into this feasibility study, because it gives me a point of reference. There certainly could be a big difference between births, live births, and the development. It's nice to see how our current year breaks out across the district. So that helps us to take a look at what our needs in these individual schools are going to be going forward. So with this feasibility study, so I appreciate that. Good
My
work.
money's on this one versus the feasibility study number. Because it breaks it down simple and it keeps it in our world, right? So, I mean, like I said, I've watched this go through with the redistricting a long time ago, right? And they throw so many factors in there that are not relevant to Great Valley, like you just did. And look how close those birth rates were. 304 to 301, doesn't get much closer than that. Chuck, the first Chuck might have been a little closer if you asked him.
We really need like 5 or 6 years to know that 1 year was statistically accurate, though.
Well, Chuck
Those are
Linderman-
nice numbers for the presentation.
Chuck Linderman would have told us it was. But no, that's a great breakdown, because I'm sitting there going, that number looks too big, it looks too big, and then all of a sudden you're breaking down 2%, 3%, and all of a sudden I'm going, oh, yeah, that does add up to the right number, you know, so that was good. Like, so that's why I said, I'll bet that one's closer. 5 years from now, we'll have a beer and decide which one was closer, but I'll bet that one's gonna be closer, so. Good, thank you. Any questions, any more? All right.
The next, we have the monthly enrollment report that's provided there for you. And the third item, 3.03, is Active Network Camp and Class Manager. This is the system that is being proposed for our summer enrichment learning opportunities, or summer camp opportunities. And in using this vendor, it will allow us to have all parents register their students online for camp, and they'll organize as well as accept payments. So everything will be done online for parents to look at a catalog of summer offerings on Great Valley School District campus. And some of them are provided by the district. Other opportunities are provided by outside vendors, but they're offered on our campus. So in years past, sometimes it wasn't clearly communicated the breadth of all opportunities in one place. And we just want to give parents the opportunity to have this information by the end of January to truly plan for summer in a comprehensive way, to see what is being offered, when they're being offered, the costs of the camps. And we're right now in the process of making sure that there is no conflict in putting everything in the catalog, those that are offered by Great Valley School District and those that are offered in Great Valley School District on our campuses, but not sponsored or endorsed by us. There are a number of summer opportunities with sports. There are some that are offered by other organizations. They actually rent our facilities and offer those opportunities. And we would just like for parents to have a one-stop shop to see what's offered in Great Valley at the district.
So,
Wouldn't those,
go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say, wouldn't those other places, having enrolled kids myself in the past, they all have their own website, so would you just link out to them, or?
Yes,
Yeah,
we
okay.
would just link out to them. We certainly would not be managing them, and they would not be part of this active network camp manager. That's only for those that we are offering. But there have been parents who have shared with us that they weren't aware of those outside opportunities until after the fact. They didn't have access to those links.
I also feel like the fact that the schools are taxpayer funded, that I like having it in one place where people can see like, hey, I'm paying tax money to support these schools, and yes, they're being rented out, but still, my money went to help pay for them, and I want to see what's offered so that I could take advantage of it. So I may not, but just to know what's available. So thank you for that. I think the more transparency and the more communication, the better. And I think your way of handling sponsored versus non-sponsored is great.
And this truly is, in our work, we've been working on return on investment, both academic and otherwise, and this truly is to try to maximize the return of investment for taxpayers.
And point of clarification, all of the summer opportunities that we're talking about are self-sustaining in terms of funding. They don't cost taxpayers dollars.
No,
The
not at
parents
all.
that choose to send their children pay
Yes.
for it.
I also like the fact that they'll all be put up in the same place at the same time. The worst thing was to be a parent and enroll your kids because, okay, here's what's available, and then you find out that there's 3 or 4 other things available. So this is a great value for the parents, and it will be wonderful for the kids. I'm grateful that we did this.
And I just want to give a shout out, Abby Linderman has really been leading, spearheading this effort, and a lot of lessons learned last year, and she's really taking those lessons and maximizing the opportunity this year. So I'm sure every year it will just become more and more powerful and enriching to our children.
Just have a question of protocol, so this is software we're purchasing, so I assume it's gonna come up in the finance approvals at some point soon, too.
Yes, it will. We wanted to present it to the board prior to signing off on the agreement, so we will be signing after the board approves it.
That's a good question. Where will the funding for that software come
That
from?
will all actually also be absorbed by the benefit from the camp, and they've included that in.
I had, sorry if I could go back just quickly for one quick comment on the monthly enrollment report. I just noticed this evening that if you look at that, I think it's for the date and period ended September 30th. The October 3rd enrollment number is from a year ago. So the month figure is right, the number of students are there, but we have to update that and put the right third day enrollment in. So I think the number is 16. We've increased by 16 students since third day till the end of the month, and it was almost all in elementary. Okay? That's right.
All right. Policy Committee. Oh, there, that's right, sorry. Phasing out.
Thanks, Dave. So the policy committee this year is meeting roughly every other month, 4 times during the school year. That's because in the past 3 years, we went through every policy and had monthly meetings to go through them in depth. Now that they're all recently reviewed within the past 3 years, we can handle more at one meeting because many of them don't need to be updated. That said, we did meet for the first time in October, and we do have updates, and there's a lot, so I'll try and just organize it in a way that might make a little bit more sense. So there was quite a few policies, as you can expect, since they were recently reviewed, that had no change. So I'll just list which ones those were. There's a Great Valley mission statement that had no change. Alternative credit for physical education had no change. And then English language development had no change. Concussion management, sudden cardiac arrest, and class size all had no change. Again, these are all reviewed within the past 3 years, and there's a lawyer who's part of the review to make sure there haven't been any changes to law that would impact our policies and make us need to revise them. Second, there was a small group of policies that had just minor revisions, again, mostly for legal factors, wording, really nothing substantive in them. Those were policies entitled Review of School Board Policies, Transgender and Gender Nonconforming Students, Curriculum Development, Review of Instructional Materials by Parents, Guardians, and Students, Exemption from Instruction, Classroom and Program Site Visitations, Instructional Supplies, Lesson Plans, School Counseling, that was just changed to Guidance Counseling, which is the more modern way of referring to that. Those were all with minor revisions. And then we have a few that we're repealing, even though they were reviewed in the past 3 years. They're no longer needed because they are included in other policies, or just from a legal perspective, they're no longer needed. Those are several there, which are, let me get you, those are outdoor activities, delegation of authority to athletic team coaches and extracurricular advisors. And then there's 3 more, one on extracurricular participation by home students, daycare, and student services. Again, either covered elsewhere or just not needed as policy. Now, there are a few that we are changing a little bit, so I'll tell you what those are. So the first one is the one on comprehensive planning. It's policy 100. We just removed the requirement that the superintendent provide quarterly updates to the board. There's regular updates, but they don't have to be quarterly. Academic standards was reworded, so the purpose was reworded, and we added a few very general guidelines. This is all part of legal counsel. Course guides and planned instruction existed as a policy separate from adoption of courses of study, and we found that they were really complemented each other so much that we asked the lawyer if we could combine them, and we did merge the two of them, and it's now called, we changed the word course of study to planned instruction. Again, we wanted just to make things more consistent so that parents and others in the community could find the right policies. Others that were updated, which we'll be voting on all of them, so whether they're reviewed and nothing changes, minor changes, or a lot of changes, none had a lot, but changes, they all will be voted on next time. The next one that was revised was gifted education. Basically, a lot of the work, a lot of the detail in there was moved into the AG, so the higher level information stays in the policy, the rest is in the AG. There was a policy called private tutoring. It was renamed from tutoring to excusal for tutorial work, because there's another policy on actual tutoring, what teachers can do as far as tutoring and not. This was really about kids who are taken out of class because they need their guardians or parents want them to have outside tutorial work. So title was changed, and it makes it clear now that tutoring to that effect is not at the district's expense. Homebound instruction was also updated. Again, most of this was moved from the policy to an AG, and we clarified that students will only receive up to 5 hours a week of homebound instruction when that's necessary, and there's a little bit more detail in there that you can read. Alternative instruction courses used to be called summer school, and now it's called alternative instruction courses to be more inclusive of the different opportunities. Adult education, we have a policy on adult education. We don't offer that currently, but we have the ability to do that as per school code, so that was just updated. It's there in case we need it. It was updated based on PSBA recommended language. Homework was updated and now includes links to the district's website and around homework guidelines. Home education program, like some of the others, a lot of the information was moved to the AG from the policy. And that covers it. So all of that done this month, and more coming in January is the next meeting. So,
All right, so
Thank
they're
you.
up. This is the first reading, and then next time will be the second reading, and we'll be voting
I'm voting
on
the
it
next one.
in
Thank you.
November, so.
Yep.
All righty. Monthly update, superintendent's update.
Absolutely. This is the highlight of my, my night. The event Box Out Bullying came to KDM in September through an interactive There was an interactive live assembly for students where they learned the evidence-based bullying prevention techniques and had a great time in the process. I know we had some stars in the audience that day of our students, and you can see the students and some of the teachers truly enjoying that assembly. In the evening on September 23rd, we hosted a parent workshop which kicked off our speaker series for the year with the same name and the facilitator. The young writers at KDM, 22 students from Meredith Bertel's third grade class, were busy at work writing mini sagas for young writers, Crazy Creatures Contest. All of the work submitted from Mrs. Bertel's class was selected for publication in the Crazy Creatures 2019 Tales from Pennsylvania. So to be in third grade and be a published author is quite an accomplishment. Soup Night at General Wayne. General Wayne held its annual Soup Night on October 7th. Families, staff, and community members came out to enjoy homemade soup and hospitality. Over the years, proceeds from the General Wayne Soup Night have been donated to cancer research organizations that are near and dear to the heart of the school community. This year, the night was dedicated to Great Valley's own Seeley family. This past August, the family unfortunately learned that Skylar, who is currently a senior at Great Valley High School and a former General Wayne Elementary student, is battling a rare cancer. 75% of the Soup Night proceeds will go to the Seeley family to aid in Skylar's fight, and the remaining 25% of the proceeds will be donated to the Sarcoma Foundation of America. The ice cream social at Charlestown. Students and families enjoyed an ice cream social at Charlestown to start the new school year. The event was a great way to bring the school community together. It's really nice as they kick off the school year for students to go to school, make new friends, and then have an opportunity to socialize with them around ice cream in the evening. Operation Friendship at Sugartown. Sugartown hosted its first assembly for the year called Operation Friendship. The event centered on making friends, showing kindness, and accepting differences in each other. Students had a whole lot of fun. Our sixth grade students and staff held the first ever Patriots Day, which is a day dedicated to team building, relationship building, and fun. The students participated in a variety of teacher-led activities and ended the day with class photos. And you can see on the right, each year the senior class at the high school creates a photo of the students, and it's typically the graduation year. So the sixth grade this year worked on creating a GV that will be sent to the high school, and when they graduate, they will compare their GV to their graduation picture. And I believe their next 6 years in Great Valley will help them with photo alignment. So it's exciting. Congratulations to the 16 Great Valley High School students who have been named National Merit semifinalists. In addition to these students, the high school also has 13 National Merit commended students. So congratulations to those students and their hard work.
Congratulations, David.
Yeah,
Yes?
What an accomplishment.
yes.
And David, should we take a picture of you in front of the picture? A lot of stars in these pictures this evening. As was mentioned, the Great Valley Homecoming, the community is invited to join us on Friday, October 18th for Homecoming 2019. The parade starts at 6 p.m. Wall of Fame induction is 6:45 p.m. and the game against Kennett starts at 7 p.m. This is a change, so there was a difference in the printed calendar. This is the accurate information. The kickoff is in fact at 7 p.m. on Friday, October 18th. Great Valley alumni are invited to a special event, an alumni reception tent that is hosted by the Great Valley Education Foundation and the Great Valley Alumni Association. Graduates are invited to stop into the tent beginning at 5 p.m. to enjoy light refreshments and to catch up with fellow alumni, staff, and friends. Finally, the speaker series events. Coming up, Kids in Stress is October 23rd at Katie Markley beginning at 6:30. Isolation, the new drug of choice, is held on February 26th at 6:30 at the high school. Cleaning the Air, which is centered on vaping, is scheduled for April 1st. We're also working on seeing if we can get something moved up closely. Vaping is a very hot topic currently, and a lot of great information and informative data is being shared, and there is a likelihood that we would be offering that sooner as well. Screenagers, digital awareness is being offered April 15th at 6:30 PM at the high school. So to make things easier, we're trying to start all of the events at 6:30 so there is not confusion with time. A reminder that all of these events are free and open to the community. Registration is required in advance, and that has been really helpful in the cases where we've had to adjust the venue to meet the crowd, the numbers. Feasibility study community meetings, a reminder that the architect feasibility study presentation will be shared tomorrow evening, October 15th at 6:30 in the high school auditorium. Prior to that presentation will be the facilities committee meeting, which will be held at 6 o'clock at the high school in the cafeteria. The community workshop as part of the feasibility study, the first one that is actually a work group, is November 12th at 6:30 in the high school in the cafeteria. Part 2 is December 9th at 6:30 in the cafeteria. A reminder to please register. This is open to all members of our community. We are strongly encouraging as much participation as this work will lead up to options that will be shared with the board beginning in January of 2020.
Can you spend just a minute and talk about sort of process and expectation? So the feasibility study presentation is really a presentation to the board, correct? Not-
Absolutely.
Is it intended to be an interactive dialogue with the community, or does that opportunity come for community members at the workshops?
The first presentation, the presentation tomorrow evening, is being presented by the Schrader Group, which was the architect firm that was hired by the school board to do two parts. The first part was the facility assessment. That will be the presentation that will be offered tomorrow evening. It is the current status of our existing facilities as well as expected projections in upkeep and maintenance moving us forward for the next 10 years. Tomorrow's presentation is a presentation of that information with an opportunity at the end for people to ask questions about that presentation. The community workshops, part 1 and 2, are truly more work group facilitated conversations and more of an opportunity for the community members to become interactive in those discussions. The feasibility study presentation, the meeting tomorrow evening, will be recorded and will be available on our website. It is purely to provide the information that has been gathered beginning from last December through last week. So it is to set the foundation to move our work forward.
So this is a sort of snapshot and informative. There are not,
Absolutely.
we do not expect recommendations or decisions.
Absolutely, and the workshop, part 1 and part 2, will be an opportunity with facilitated discussions and actually interactive opportunities to participate. That is November 12th and December 9th. There will be no options presented until January of 20, and those options will be based on all of the information that has been and will be collected up until that point. Those options will be presented to the board along with expected costs for each of the options, at which time then the board will be discussing options and talking about parts of each option to potentially arrive at a decision in the months of the first part of the calendar year, 2020.
I have a question, Regina. So I heard what you said. So the feasibility study presentation is going to happen tomorrow. Can you tell me what the work is that's going to be done in the workshop on November 12th and December 9th? Like, what's the work?
Absolutely. The work is really to talk about what does the community, based upon the information that is received tomorrow evening, what is the capacity of each of our buildings? What will be the cost to maintain our buildings for the next 10 years? And then to talk about if we are growing, as you've heard from Mr. Peterson in the enrollment projections, if we are growing and our capacity is expanding and we will need to do something differently, potentially, what does that look like? And really to not come with preconceived notions, to work through what are some possibilities that exist, and then to really start very broadly with the possibilities and be able to drill them down based upon feedback from the community, the staff, the parents. What are the implications of each of those decisions? And that will be done through facilitated workshop experiences, looking at what do other districts have, what are the possibilities, what are the things that are important to the Great Valley community? What is the current footprint of our school district, and what are the possibilities to expand that footprint or increase capacity within the existing footprint? So there are no decisions that have been made. It truly is informational tomorrow. So everyone is starting with the same basis of information. And then from that point, grow to, if we're growing, what are our options?
Know what the community wants.
Absolutely.
Or thinks they want.
So it's really a great opportunity to come together and talk about where we are going as a Great Valley School District community, and discuss potential options as well as the implications of those options. Yes, I'm sorry, Samantha.
No, I just wanted to say thank you, because as a community member, not as a board member, I received a postcard, and I believe that went out to the entire community. And I think that's a wonderful initiative, that it was so inclusive that the school district took the time to actually mail a card to everybody versus waiting for people to find out, on the website or Facebook. And I would also encourage us, you said that the video is going to be on the website.
Yes.
To make that as just visible as possible, the homepage or whatever, so that people who missed it can easily find where it is and then feel like they can participate in the follow-up meetings if they can't. But just thank you for getting that postcard out. I'm sure that was a lot of effort to, make that
Really-
happen, and I'm sure the community is happy about that.
Thank
So.
you. And a huge thank you to Jen Blake, who is working with the Schrader Group. They've been in constant contact. On our website, under the feasibility study, you will see all of the notifications that have been sent. By October 25th is the target date to have the video from tomorrow evening available on the website. So those folks who are unable to come tomorrow but would like to come on November 12th will have an opportunity to view that video. So they're coming with some foundational information that others will have experienced. So that is the goal. Our upcoming events, starting today, is the Sugartown Book Fair that runs through Friday, October 18th, as we have talked. Just another reminder, homecoming parade 6 o'clock, homecoming game 7 o'clock. We also don't have it up there, but as David mentioned, the homecoming dance then is Saturday, October 19th. October 21st through the 25th is Sugartown's Heritage Week. October 23rd is the speaker series, as we talked, Kids and Stress. And October 25th, the Sugartown Pride Family Fun Dance and Silent Auction. October 31st, we have Halloween parades throughout the district. So if you have nothing to do and are interested in some fabulous opportunities to see our students strutting their Halloween attire, those are the times of the Halloween parades throughout the district. November 1st is the General Wayne Turkey Trot. November 4th and 5th is No School for Students and K through 12 conferences. November 8th, KDM Turkey Trot is at 2 o'clock, and the Sugartown Turkey Trot is at 2:30. Another fun event to see our students and their talents. Thank you.
All right. Facilities Committee, again, a reminder that there's the facilities meeting tomorrow evening at the Great Valley High School from 6:30 to 7:30, and then the facilities presentation, feasibility presentation will be
6:30. It's 6 to 6:30 is the committee meeting. 6 o'clock, yes.
Yep, okay. 6 o'clock is the Facilities Committee meeting. in the cafeteria at the high school.
Right.
And at 6:30, the feasibility presentation will be given at the high school auditorium.
Yeah, thank
There you go. All right, the building use report's there. Transportation.
Under transportation, we have 3 new drivers listed for your approval.
All right, we'll be approving them next week.
We'd have nothing under food service this evening.
Food service, and on to finance.
Under finance, we have several new student activity clubs that have filled out the appropriate applications and are being recommended for approval. We have a contract with a company called Know Before, and that is a request for a 1-year subscription for 700 user licenses at a total cost of $8,876. This is a company that sends emails to folks that have things embedded in them, that it's a teaching tool to teach you not to click on things. But it's very creative in the way they do it, and it entices people to click. And when you click, you'll get a message that says, had this been a real phishing email, you would have compromised your system, and it educates folks. So it's another step in being proactive to try to protect our system, which if you follow the news across the country and the state and even locally, there's a lot of these situations now where people are being asked to pay to get their information back. So we're doing everything we can to try to be proactive in that area. There's an agreement for a Canvas workshop. If you read the public content there, that's pretty detailed on what's being requested there. And the agreement cost is 50% less than the standard 1-day on-site workshop. So this is professional development for K-12, and the purpose is focused professional development built for building administrators, instructional technology, on the efficient use of the district's learning management system, Canvas. There's a donation to the Robotics Club. One of the speaker series requests for boxed out bullying at a cost of $2,065, and that will provide an elementary assembly on September 19th, and then a workshop in the evening for the speaker series on September 23rd. Under 9.06, we have a request to exonerate some tax liens at the Willistown Woods 2 and Willistown Knoll for the tax years 99 through 2015. We've been informed that this was deeded improperly, and so the taxes that were paid on this should have been, or were charged through the homeowners association, through their other buildings and so on, and shouldn't have been a separate assessment bill. So it's our understanding that all 3 taxing entities are exonerating these taxes.
Does that mean they owe us money and we're just not gonna collect it, or we have to pay them back?
No, we don't have to pay them back. It hasn't been paid.
Okay.
Under 9.07, we have another request for a professional development opportunity. This is with LinkedIn Learning. At one time, it was called lynda.com, and they were bought out by LinkedIn. And this is a cost of $7,750 for 50 licenses. And we're going to be giving that mostly to our administrative support personnel and administrators who we think will benefit from it. It's a 24/7 access to a system that has literally thousands and thousands of video professional development. So if you want to learn Excel Basic, do you want to learn Excel Advanced, Word, Google, or LinkedIn, or Teams, or all the different kinds of software systems. And in addition to software systems and things like that, there's public speaking, there's writing, there's management series. It's nice because you can sign on at your own time, and it keeps track of where you are in the lesson. So if there are 30 lessons there and you get through the first 5, when you sign on again, it will automatically start you at lesson 6. If you want to listen to one of the lessons over again and go back and review it, you can do that. And when you complete a course, it will print a certificate, you can print a certificate of completion from that course and present it for your supervisor. So we're planning on using this as part of our goal setting throughout the district also, especially for our support staff. We think this will be a great opportunity that will enable our staff to get professional development without having to take time off from their job and drive and things like that. Question?
But for something new like this, I mean, you answered my question partially by saying it'll be part of goal setting, but do we monitor it and find out at the end of the year that one person took the courses or 30 people did, and then do we do any kind of satisfaction with the users to see if they, even if they got completions, was it worthwhile, did they like it, just to, it's not that expensive, but just to measure that we're getting something for it?
Yes, again, like you said, this is new, so that hasn't been done, but it will be done. And there's an administrator license capacity with this thing that you can monitor all the usage, so you can print that out monthly or yearly. And so we will monitor that, and we'll use that information to decide whether to recommend in renewing the license a year from now. And part of that, again, like you said, we'll check satisfaction. Part of that, the old term proof is in the pudding. If people take, the time to use the thing, we'll know that there's getting some satisfaction. But we can do some surveys on that. So we might come back a year from now and say, we're not going to renew. We might say we'd like to renew. We might say we want to go from 50 licenses to 100, but that'll all be based on the evidence that's secured from the success or failure of using it this coming year.
Question. So do we have the ability to use these tools and tailor them? Maybe, like, could we potentially incentivize our employees to take professional development or to utilize some of these programs that might be advantageous in their particular niche?
Yes, and, we'll encourage our administrators to evaluate what's available. And so let's say my assistant is good at Excel, but I want her to use pivot tables, then I know there's a session on here on using pivot tables in Excel, and I can put that in the goal setting and say, I'd like you to take this course on pivot tables this coming year. At some point. And so yes, if you decide that you have a support person that has a specific need, let's say they are responsible to type letters for you, but you see that maybe there could be some improvement there, you could ask them to take a course on letter writing. So.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Next, we have an E-rate application service. We've been doing this in the past, but not with the Central Susquehanna Intermediate Unit. The company that we used this year charged a variable rate. It was a down payment of $3,500, and then 10% of all revenue that we receive from E-rate above $35,000. So this particular year, we're going to end up paying about $13,000 for that service. This is a fixed cost of $5,300, so we think we'll save money. But we won't know that until we finally see how much money we're going to get next year. But it's a pretty good gamble that we're going to save money by going this way as opposed to the contract that we had before.
Could you remind us what E-rate is?
Yes, I don't know what year it was developed, a long time ago, in an effort with the federal government to get internet access across the country. So, that there's been a lot of improvements, but there's still a lot of areas in the country that doesn't have internet access. So if you look at your personal bill and it's on business bills, all of the telephone bills, you'll see a line item on there where you're paying a tax. That goes into a kitty of money, a pool of money that's then distributed across the country on an effort to enhance the availability of the internet and Wi-Fi systems and all of those kinds of things.
So this helps us save money by looking at where we're being charged for that and helping us get some of that back.
Yes, we get a reimbursement if we follow the proper protocol and go through this whole system where we budget for the equipment we're going to buy and we make sure that it was bid properly and we put in all the paperwork, then we get a reimbursement from the federal government. And I think this year was around $135,000. Do you want to take the next couple, Dr. Speaker Palabinsky?
The next number of items are contracts or agreements based on students And you'll see that within the agreement, it explains the services to be provided. So the first one is with private school agreement with Silver Springs Martin Luther School. 9.10 is the agreement with the Pathway School. 9.11 is the contract with Center for Families, and each of these are individual agreements based upon student need. 9.12 is the contract with Council Rock School District, and in this contract, if a student lives outside of the district or is attending a facility in another school district, which in this case, the facility's in Council Rock School District, however, lives within our school district, or vice versa. If the parents live in another school district but are attending a facility that is within our district, there is the contract with the other school district that we provide educational services. So that is the case with this contract. Finally, the contracts with LearnWell, these are both behavioral contracts, one with Brookglen Behavioral Hospital, and the second one is in Phoenixville for the LIGHT program. And all of these agreements are based on student need and the opportunity for the district to offer free and appropriate public education with the services and necessary accommodations provided.
That concludes the financial.
All right, thank you. Let's see. Oh. I don't see anything under other items. There were no comments last week or the last meeting to respond to. Committee reports?
Can I give a foundation update?
Yes, please.
So you'll recall that last year, we heard quite a bit about a strategic reflection moment that the foundation was having, and we agreed to participate in some sessions with a strategic team from PASBO who came in and helped the organization take a real good look at itself and decide who it wants to be from here forward. And so some small changes have taken place since we've already talked about, some of the changes to the grant program to make it more easily accessible and easily utilized by those that could use them. And I thought I'd read through a summary of some of the findings that came out of the PASBO report that was shared last month. Our next board meeting is tomorrow. So we'll have more once the board has time to reflect and discuss the findings from PASBO's readout. So PASBO presented and reviewed a final report with recommendations. The board discussed which of the items to take action on and several of the recommendations at the last meeting. That's what I just said. Board recruitment was a big topic of discussion. The foundation board discussed creating a pamphlet and some information items so that we can begin to recruit for new board members out in the community. There's a lot of great work that can and should be done, but we need more than the few hands that we have today to get it done. There has been some fact-finding discussions happen with a program that Vanguard offers called the Skills-Based Volunteer Program. I've helped facilitate that introduction where a core of volunteers with different areas of expertise from around Vanguard volunteer their time to help nonprofits and similar organizations get off the ground. So we're working with skills-based volunteers to help the board with some communication strategy and tactics. There are additional discussions about streamlining the venture grant program to, again, make it more easily usable and broadly utilized. And we are expecting to reintroduce the Pennsylvania Educational Improvement Tax Credit to local corporations to increase funding participation from local organizations. So I expect a robust discussion tomorrow night about where we might go with some of these recommendations, and I will report back from there. Regina and Chuck were both there for that meeting as well. I don't know if you have anything that you'd want to add, but I'm really encouraged by the recommendations and the energy around them.
I think it's been a great process, and I do think it is exactly what was needed to bring everyone back together and focus. So thank you, great report.
All right, any other committee reports or board comments?
I just have one comment. I didn't want to let this meeting go by. Dale Herman was one of our teachers in Charlestown Elementary School. I am so grateful to have had Dale in my life. She was a phenomenal teacher, touched a lot of people, ran that 4th and 5th grade wing. She passed away last week. I was very, very saddened. My prayers go out to her family, but I didn't want the meeting to go by without acknowledging Dale and her many years of work for Great Valley, sitting in Charlestown, taking care of not only our kids, but our kids' parents. She was a phenomenal, phenomenal woman, and she's really going to be missed. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Back in the finance section, section 9.01, with the Great Valley Student Activity Clubs, just as like a housekeeping thing, how do we handle, I know that we approve a lot of new clubs, but what's the process for old clubs? Because I feel like 8 years on the board probably approved 300 clubs. Is there just a way for students to know what's active, what isn't, and just to like kind of keep things organized and clean? And okay to table this, I don't need an answer now.
Well, actually, I can provide more of a thorough answer based upon Dr. Cap's feedback, which I'm sure Dr. Capitola will provide us with a more in-depth analysis. But we do have a coordinator at the high school, Alex Fenarchik, who oversees the clubs. And one of the realities is many of the students, and if Mr. Nemeth was here, I'm sure he would speak to this, many times students are interested in initiating a new club. And clubs, as long as they have an advisor and are signed off upon, they can initiate a new club. And there have been times that existing clubs no longer continue because there is just not the interest or the leadership available for a new club. That said, a lot of work has been done by the high school administration to provide, along with Alex Fenarchik, to provide opportunities to expose students. So at different events, I know I've seen clubs actually recruiting students. I believe freshman orientation this year included an exposition of the clubs that exist. So incoming freshmen can see the different possibilities. There are really a plethora of opportunities for multiple different interests available at the high school, which is wonderful, but I do believe sometimes it probably is very difficult to have all of them operating at their capacity. So great question, and I'm sure Dr. Capitola will provide us with a more in-depth informational understanding of the club process at the high school. Thank you.
Actually, just to piggyback on that, I mean, I think we had a similar question last year. These clubs that we voted on this year lately look great, but a lot of them may have a very similar mission to something that was founded, let's say, 5 years ago or even 3 years ago. Does it matter if one goes away and a new one, like, does it cost us anything more? Is there any burden to us? If someone had a club that had almost the same mission and now it's kind of faded because they're gone and someone else is creating one, does it matter?
No.
Okay.
And these clubs are not extra duty responsibility. They're not paid advisorships. They are simply student interest-driven clubs. So they secure an advisor to oversee the club, and they fill out the appropriate paperwork. Dr. Capitola reviews them, Alex Fenarchik signs off on them, and then they are submitted for your approval. But it is actually no cost at all to the district, and it really gives an opportunity for our students to demonstrate their leadership skills in an area of interest.
All right. Any other board comments? All right, so the draft agenda is there for next week for review. This time I'll open up the podium for any residents who have any comments. Seeing none. Board met in executive session beforehand to discuss some personnel and legal matters. Thank you very much for coming. Have a good evening.